2022. My name is Jody White, and I want to introduce you to William Asper.
You showed me a photo of these AV files. What is that?
So AV stands for absentee voter, absentee voter list. This was a series of files that were listed by precincts, and I was in City Hall. I think I was doing something. I was doing a FOIA for something, and I went into the gallery to the left to sit down. There's a little table there and write it up. So I was there, and right in front of me, I see on this table is this set of files.
Okay, but hold on a second. The file though, those files were not in the gallery. This photo here.
It was in the gallery.
That blue milk crate was in the gallery.
It was in the gallery. File, not cabinet, but a little set of files, the little tabs say precinct, and then it had many pieces of paper showing each absentee voter with the voter ID number to each person. Okay,
so you actually seen this file and you pulled one out.
Correct.
And then that's when you took pictures. What did you take pictures of then?
I took pictures of the outside of it, of course, so everyone knew what I was pulling from or what I was looking at. I took another picture from the top so they could see how thick these folders were. Just see that there's more than just one piece of paper. There's quite a few. And then I pulled one out. Well, actually, there was two stacks of them right next to this filing cabinet. And I was looking at it, and sure as shit, it had the people's voter ID or voter numbers for whatever district they were in, their names, the address that the absentee ballot was sent to. It showed the date the absentee ballots were mailed out, the date the absentee ballots were received, and I took a picture of the first one I saw.
You were in the gallery, and it's almost like they had their work product out in the hallway.
Yeah, looked like it was the deputy clerk. The deputy was not in that day, and she was doing something. They just had it all out there because not really many people go in the gallery. Almost no one. So they're probably obviously going through some things around the gallery themselves, and they left it out. Didn't think anything of it, I'm guessing.
But on the table, someone left this blue rack with open files. So,
and right next to it was a large pile of the absentee ballot list, which was from, I'm assuming, some of those folders.
So the goal for you though was to, what sparked your interest? What made you kind of be curious about these ballots?
So, Westland's always had a low voter turnout. And Richard LeBlanc on Facebook celebrated Westland residents, stating that 2/3 of the residents voted, 66,000 or something like that out of the registered, 2/3 of them voted. I didn't find it believable, so I was always curious if there was outside voters. And I was always curious that people were coming in and voting in our elections, because how are you gonna know? They wouldn't. So I looked through a few pages. I looked at the first page.
You had 1 through 16, and you had Big Rapids, St. Charles, Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Wayne, and even someone from Missouri voting in our Westland elections.
Yeah. So there's sometimes reasons for it. Say, you're at college. I can understand that. Part about that is that colleges were closed. They're all doing it online, so there was no reason for, say, Ann Arbor or Ypsilanti. One that was a dead giveaway, though, was an apartment in Wayne. There's nothing in Wayne. About 12,000 people, 15, whatever it is. There's nothing. There's no college in Wayne. Why is this person who lives in an apartment voting in our elections? No idea. So I took a picture, and I made sure I took a picture because who knows, maybe I'll need it. I was thinking about taking all these with me as evidence, but I had to go somewhere. I had to go back to my house to grab something. I came back and it was gone. I went out to the clerk's office. I said, hey, I saw all these over here, all these absentee ballot lists. I was wanting to see if I can get a copy of it. She said no.
Now, who's she?
This is the deputy clerk.
So where was Richard at this day?
As I said, Richard wasn't there that day. He was in the office.
He was not in the office. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and so she was the one that basically did not call Richard LeBlanc out when you told her that these ballots, that these lists were just sitting out there. Did that cause concern to you as a citizen?
Well, it did, because I was challenged about my residency, even though afterwards I submitted a 5 or 6 page paper, including case law, including election law, but they still took me off the ballot, stating I wasn't a resident. So the fact that they took me off the ballot, accusing me of not being a resident, but allowing these non-residents to vote, it made me very, very, very angry. Incredible, and it just blew my mind. So I made sure I got pictures just in case there's a lawsuit or something that comes down the line.
We have these email correspondence between you and Peter Hertzberg. He's the councilman of Westland.
One of them.
Wait, tell me about these text messages.
I believe it was July 4th, so it was maybe 6 months, 7 months after, maybe 8 months after this incident happened. I showed him these absentee ballots and showing him that we have people outside of Westland that are voting in our elections. And because I think he asked, how do you know this? Well, I had the pictures. I had the pictures of the folders being out. I have a picture of the one sheet, and he said that these were supposed to be locked up. So he does have existence of it, or he does know the existence of it, but he says it's supposed to be locked and secured, are his words. And I stated where I found it, and he just said, Jesus. So Kevin Coleman, he ran against Mayor Wild in 2017. Yeah, 2017. Supposedly he only lost by like maybe 10,000 votes, or 10% of the votes or so. Well, if we have all these people voting from outside the elections, outside of the city, if we have all these people voting or dropping off absentee ballots that aren't being confirmed who they are, Kevin could have been the mayor. And I told him this. I said, these things, if you would have found out about them, if you would have fought for it, you might have been the mayor. Like, the city's dynamic would be greatly changed.
That's what I say. I think Kevin would have made an amazing mayor. I don't think...
He would have made a better mayor. I'm not going to say...
Well, better. Okay, I like better. And I also think you would have then he would have run and then left, and then you would have come in so that we get a little bit of spice from everybody, because that's the thing. We have too many people sitting in the office and no one's exposing the stuff.
No one is a business person. Mayor Wild he has a business, but he got it from his grandparents, who then, grandparents to parents to him. He didn't start it himself. There's no politician, none of the city councilmen that are business people. So why are they making business decisions for the city?
Well, and for Kevin Coleman, for our state, for that reason, because this is
Kevin's a piano teacher,
and he doesn't care about election fraud, because this is pretty heavy duty information that you're sharing with us.
It definitely hurt him.
Well, and he didn't care, so he doesn't. But the people today, we care. Did Peter do anything about this? What was his role as a city council person who's working with the city clerk? Did he try to call the prosecuting attorney and do something about this?
No. So Peter, and I know he's taking into consideration his future elections. Peter's more of like a soundboard. You can tell him things, he'll take it in. Will he do anything with it? Most likely not. At city council meetings, for example, people don't even remember this. About a year and a half ago, Mayor Wild and the city of Westland were trying to make it where it was illegal for marijuana plants to be grown in residential buildings. Meaning you couldn't grow a plant in your own home. Even though an old Michigan law states that if you own your own house, you're allowed to grow one plant. And then there's the Michigan medical marijuana law, which, 12 plants per person, up to 60 or whatever the number is, and then over like 100 for the household. They were trying to make this illegal and to make it where marijuana could only be grown in commercial or industrial facilities. Why would they want to do that? Well, this was right around the time they were voting on whether or not to approve medical marijuana for the city, the retail stores. If that law would have passed, if they would have voted on it and passed, which would have been a misdemeanor charge, then that would have given these companies free reign, made them a lot more money. But I was at the meeting. Peter called me earlier that day. Like I say, he's not a bad guy. Peter called me earlier that day, said we're talking about medical marijuana, or the marijuana thing, and we're talking about the Humane Society contract. I'm all about both. I spoke on both in detail, and they tabled it. The city attorney, you would think he would know this. He didn't say anything. He tends to sit back and then lets the city council make their own bad decisions on their own. He doesn't advise them as he's supposed to do. So it got tabled and it never came back. So they looked it up. I'm sure they did a little research, talked to the city attorney. He said there's no way, because you can't go against state law on that. The second issue was the Humane Society, and it was about renewing their contract. Now, I had spoken to Peter Herzberg about this. I spoke to Mike McDermott about this, who's a huge dog lover, and I spoke to Tasha Green about this. At this meeting, the city council president, Jim Hart. Yeah, Jim Hart. He was absent. He was having some health issues. So when that part came up for a vote, I spoke. I spoke ahead of time, and I stated that the Michigan Humane Society makes a lot of money off the city. They make a ton of money off the city. I was calculating how much that mortgage payment would have to be, so I knew there was a lot more money coming in than what was being cited.
Did Peter ever look into this for you to get you the exact amount of money, or does he just not care?
I do it myself. No, he doesn't do that.
Okay, but does he, as a city councilman, don't you think he should be a little more engaged?
Oh, I think so, but at the same time, he knows what's going on. He knows that, and we've talked about this, he knows that, if things come up to a vote, there's 7 council members. Maybe he would get Tasha back then. Maybe he would get Mike McDermott. Okay, so at most you have 3. You're still getting outvoted 4-3 every time. And this was something he knew. So he, I would say, maybe tries to pick his battles, but he's being outnumbered. So
he's being culpable. In my opinion, it's a form of culpability.
His vote's being diluted, and it's going to be diluted every single time.
But he has the culpability aspect where he's supposed to be going to the mayor and fixing the stuff. So he is part of the council. But all right, so there's a Kim Worthy is our county prosecutor, and there was a detective, Patricia Penman. What's up with that? What's up with her?
So back when the 2020 election happened, as I said, I've noticed all these absentee ballots coming in. No one's looking at anybody's ID or anything. The 4 ballot boxes, just a lot of things. So I was somewhat savvy in election law back then. So I called the Attorney General's office. I called the Bureau of Elections. I called the Secretary of State, and they all told me, they referred me to call Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy's office. This was regarding multiple election law criminal violations by Richard LeBlanc. That was, I think, early, mid-November that it started.
Of 2020.
Correct, 2020. There was many delays. Detective Patricia Penman was isolated for COVID at one time for a little while. City Hall was closed for however many weeks, so that delayed her investigation. When the investigation finally got done, which I believe was like February, so 3-4 months, maybe March, can't remember. She called me. She spoke to me. I had already given her a ton of evidence, and she stated that Richard LeBlanc had committed many election law violations, which are all criminal misdemeanors. Like, we're talking about jail, which they could probably, some could be considered felonies. But she said that the prosecutor's office was not going to pursue charges against Richard LeBlanc. Richard LeBlanc obviously knew about this stuff. We don't get along, to say the least. So I believe that was a precursor, one of the reasons why Richard LeBlanc turned on me, showed favoritism to Mayor Wild for the mayor election. I tried to get him locked up. I tried to get him fired.
And you ran in 2021 as mayor for Westland.
Correct. Yeah.
So back to this Patricia Penman though. Do you have a copy of her investigation?
I don't have it. That's not something they usually give out. I did call and leave a voicemail earlier today. I also emailed earlier today as well, asking for the same thing. Whether I'm entitled to it or I can get it, we'll see. But as far as right now, no, I don't have it.
So what is your thoughts about these prosecutors? They know that it's a hot topic, this investigation with election fraud, and they won't let us use the word fraud, but then let's call it violations of election law. So why do you think she got to just sit there and be the judge and the jury? Why wasn't that brought into a public hearing?
So I really don't like the fact that these prosecutors cherry pick what cases they want. If you're not going to choose a prosecutor on that, what if I steal a car? What's the difference?
Well, and don't forget, they
have
get
a
to
bias.
and being a state rep candidate in 2018 and being on their hit list and being targeted by the prosecutors of Oakland County, I've seen it happen. So they can cherry pick.
They can.
And then they can fabricate.
They can, but they shouldn't.
They can what?
They can, but they shouldn't.
Well, they can, they should, and they also manipulate the information, kind of like we're catching them manipulating the election law. People care about the election law. Okay, so it's getting a little bit busy in here. We're going to wrap this up. So what's your final comments about the information that you've shared with me today?
Well, I'm hoping and I'm glad that you're able to speak to Senator McBroom. I have the evidence. It's basically I just can't get it to the right people. You can't refute it. I have the evidence there, the pictures, whatever. So, like this corruption, it's a corruption that's going on. This election fraud, these election law violations that nothing's happening. No one's charging anyone with crimes. No one's charging anyone. They're gonna keep on doing it. So, I'm hoping and I'm glad that you're going to be able to bring this to light so it can stop. Because if this stuff keeps on happening, people don't have a chance. They're just going to be strong-armed by whoever maybe has more money or more of a political power in the city. The underdogs aren't going to have a shot, even if they're the better candidate. So it's going to make more people feel that, hey, even just voters, hey, I have a chance to change something. But that's why people don't vote, because it's all pre-decided. Well, it is pre-decided if they're running the tables.
So do you think we should use Westland as a pilot program to maybe expose what's going on? The fact that we have this information given to us from a citizen who actually was running for mayor, who actually did get harmed by their rules, but when it came to you, they actually used it against you. So what's your choice? What's your thoughts about it being a pilot program and using your story as an example?
So as far as it being the pilot, meaning the start, I think it will be met with much resistance. You're going to have the mayor, of course, the deputy mayor, of course, the clerk. Everyone's going to be, the council, everyone's going to be against it.
All right. We appreciate your opinion.
Thank you.
Is a pilot program necessary? Should we start in the city of Westland? On November 9th, 2020, there was a FOIA request that was put out asking to look at information. And then when the FOIA coordinator wrote back, and he clearly states that the city does not track this information, yet then lo and behold, the information shows up. Manipulation of our election process can be proven, but is it considered fraud? That is the question for 2022. Are you interested in the truth?